All right, good morning and welcome to the Empowering Women series. My name is Pia McAdams. I'm an author, I'm also an accounting professor and a certified life coach. I specialize in personal and small business finance and also fitness. I help people reach their goals. And I'm so excited to be bringing this broadcast series to you. And the purpose of this Empowering Women series is for us women to share our stories, our joys, our failures, our successes, just different experiences that we go through in life in the hopes to see that we're not alone. Because again, a lot of times what we do is we're either too embarrassed or too shamed or whatever the reason may be, and we don't share, we don't really support each other. And so this is an open forum that we can actually come together and just talk about being women. All right, so I'm so excited today to be presenting Jessica Talby. Now, Jessica caught my attention maybe a couple years ago, and you're going to see she's a fireball. We both run into the same, we're in the same industry. We're in the fitness industry as well. And she's also an instructor. And I've never been to one of her classes because you find out that once you become an instructor, you really don't go to other instructors' classes unless you're really, really close friends because you're too busy being an instructor and teaching your own classes. But I've heard so many good things about her classes because, again, being in the same area, we have some of the similar people that are going from class to class. And I'm always hearing about how great of an instructor she is. And then plus, you're going to find out that, you're going to hear from Jessica, her journey. And the title of this particular broadcast is Brave in Fitness. And Jessica's going to talk about self-esteem and self-body image and also being body size positive, and particularly how it related in her journey in the fitness industry. So I'm so excited to be talking to Jessica. And without further ado, let me present to you Jessica. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. I'm very
So
excited.
tell us about your story.
So I'm Jessica, and I'm going to let you know kind of my credentials as they come up in my story because it's very much so a stepping stone that I had to take to get to everywhere that I am. But my fitness journey started with me just being a student in class and taking a class called Turbo Kick. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a pretty amazing, pretty amazing class that just rocks your world and lights your soul on fire. And I started in the back row of this Turbo Kick class, and I was terrible at it. I couldn't understand the choreography. I was really out of shape. I didn't have a ton of weight to lose at the time, but my healthy eating habits were non-existent. I was living on cheeseburgers and french fries. I was in college, and I was bartending to put myself through school. So I was at the bar until 2 in the morning, falling asleep at 4 in the morning, getting to class at 8 in the morning, exhausted all the time. But I knew that this class made me happy. And even though I couldn't do it and all the way, and I was modifying a lot of the movements, I would still go. And I started in the back of the room, and I slowly started working my way up as I built confidence in my abilities as a student and confidence in myself. I started to climb closer and closer to the front of the classroom until eventually I was a front row student, rocking out every single movement and able to keep up with the rest of the class. I met so many great friends inside of that classroom, and that's really what kept me coming back. It was the people that held me accountable in a positive way and said, hey, are you coming to class tomorrow? And that's who made me truly commit to these classes every single week. I decided to get certified as an instructor, not because I wanted to teach, but because I thought that maybe if I learned a little bit more about this class that I loved so much, that I could get better and maybe get a little bit fitter.
Now, let me ask you, before you begin, when you decided to become an instructor, did you tell your friends, your family, and what were their reaction?
I didn't. I was very, very private about it because I was embarrassed. I thought that maybe I wasn't going to succeed at it. And so I wasn't ready to share with people that I was going to do it. I didn't even reach out to my instructor at the time and tell her that I was going to do it. I just signed up for it online and showed up that day. And I didn't post on social media that I was there. And after I completed the training, it's actually really funny because inside that training day, the master trainer, the person that certifies you to be an instructor, they give everybody the opportunity to get on the microphone and teach a little bit of the class. And I remember hiding, like getting back of the line, back of the line, back of the line. And when it was finally my turn, I went to the bathroom. I didn't teach.
Are
I
you
was so afraid. Yes, I was so afraid. There was no way that I was going to do it. And I remember telling myself immediately, setting myself up for failure by saying, you're not going to actually ever teach this. You're here to lose weight. You're never going to be an instructor. So why would you ever try to practice on a microphone? Like, I already started to tell myself that I wasn't going to be good at this job.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell anyone. So that's a really great question. I appreciate you asking that because I really did keep it a secret for a while. I got certified in 2009 and I taught my first fitness class with 24-Hour Fitness in 2011. So 2 years went by with me holding on to that certification and me paying the renewal fee for no reason, just to keep it current because there was a little tiny person inside of me that was like, this is for us. This is what we're supposed to do. But the big person that was constantly putting myself down and not letting me live up to my full potential was not allowing that little person to speak, So what ended up happening was I continued as a student and I got better because you know that when you apply yourself with knowledge and you put it into practice, you become better. And so my form got great. My technique was great. My passion for the class was, fueled by the knowledge of me knowing actually why we're doing the certain things we're doing and seeing the benefits. And I did start to lose weight and to get healthier and to build muscle because I was putting into practice the knowledge that I had learned. And people started to recognize that I had changed. And so I didn't have to tell anybody that I got trained. People started to realize that I had gotten trained because I was changing. And I was different and I was holding my head a little bit higher. I was proud. And so I had my instructor at the time was this amazing woman named Angelina, and she used to teach this packed class. There was like 70 to 80 on a good day, 100 people in this class. And we would all come and we would do turbo together and we would go out to eat after. And, 30 of us would go to the bar or whatever it was. But she really did a great job at cultivating a culture of people that supported each other outside of that 1 hour.
Yeah,
she would have a group text. Yeah, she was so good at that. She would have a group text message where she'd be like, are you coming? Are you coming? Are you coming? And people had to say yes, or they had to be like, no, I'm so sorry. I can't make it today. And then people would convince them to show up anyways. She was so good at creating that culture of people. And so she decided to move on and that she no longer was able to teach that class. And when she did that, people immediately turned their head and looked to me and said, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to teach? Like, you're ready. And I wasn't ready, but I did it anyways.
Okay.
And when I say I wasn't ready, I don't mean physically. I probably was ready physically. I'm not even sure, but my head told me that I wasn't ready because I didn't have a six-pack. I didn't have, I wasn't skinny. I wasn't in, size 0 workout pants. I wasn't wearing size small anything. And I thought that the person in front of the classroom needed to be the fittest person inside of the room. If you were going to lead, you had to lead by example. And what I thought that meant was that you had to be the perfect version of fitness or nobody would want to take your class. I thought people would look at me from outside the window and say, oh, there's no way I'm going to take that girl's class because she's not going to give me a workout if she looks like that. So I really started to doubt my abilities. However, it was either I took over this class or it was going away. And my love and passion for this brand is what really made me say, for the first time ever, I don't care what people think. I have to give this a chance or I won't forgive myself. Like, I have to try to make this work. So I auditioned for 24-Hour Fitness and I got the job and I got that class. I immediately got to take over her class, which was really, really great. And I was super excited and very scared, very, very, very scared to teach my first class. I probably practiced for like 20 hours that week. Like, no joke. I practiced so much to get ready to teach. And I thought about it like, okay, what did I love about her class? What were the things what did I see? Who am I teaching to? I really started to think like, what are people going to want from me? And so I started to create this class that was going to be super hard, that was going to add all the bells and whistles, that was going to add twists and turns, and my music was going to be sped up. Yeah, it was going to be really, really fast, and I was going to go crazy. And I started to put this class together. I wanted to pick my favorite songs to show people my personality, and I put a lot of time and effort into planning this class.
Okay.
And I show up to teach, and I walk into the room, and all of the people that are there are not the people that could keep up with the twists and the turns and the speed. The people that showed up for me to support me on my first class were the people that I used to hang out with in the back row that were barely hanging on, barely keeping up with the choreography, were not the perfect visions of fitness. They were the people who were kind and loving and supporting me through my journey. And they were the back row girls that I used to be. And that's who showed up for me, because those are the relationships that I had built and nurtured. And when I really look back on it, that was what made Angelina's class so great. It was that she built relationships and nurtured and created a culture. And I was part of that culture. And that's who showed up for me that day. And I immediately had to change my tune. I could not teach this crazy advanced class.
Now, let me ask you though, because when you're standing up in front, like when you first walk into the room, because again, you're in a class that's normally packed. And so when you first walk in and you see that there's only a few people, what did that do mentally? Like, were you disappointed? Like, how did you feel about that?
Yeah, definitely. You think for a second, like, okay, something's wrong. Like, maybe there's traffic. I don't know. They're stuck on the freeway. You start to think like, okay, this can't really be happening. Like they're going to come. And it's definitely a humbling moment. I chose to take it as a thank God, because I was so afraid. Like the stage fright part of it was what really scared me the most. Like public speaking or being in front of 70 people really terrified me. But not only was there only like 5 people, but it was my 5 friends who I knew would never judge me or hold it against me. And I took it as a lesson, like, I can mess up in front of this group of people who have my back. Like, my first class can be terrible, and they would never tell anyone. Somebody would ask them a week later, and they'd be like, oh, the best class ever, And so it comforted me, to be honest with you. It made me feel better that I only had a small amount of people that I trusted. And I just think it was such a lesson learned, because, you don't realize that just by showing up to a fitness class or just by, showing up to the gym, you're leaving impressions on people from the minute you walk in, and even though I wasn't the instructor, I was still a student that was working out with these people for 2 years or 3 years or whatever, amount of time it was. And I was building relationships with these people. And so, like, when I did become an instructor, I had a great support system because I had already created that culture, and I already showed them who I was. I already showed them that I was going to show up every week, because I'd been showing up every week for 3 years. I didn't have to prove myself in that sense. What I had to prove was my abilities as an instructor. And let me tell you, I was not good.
We typically aren't when we first start out. We only think we are sometimes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work that way.
Oh my God. It was bad. It was so bad. And, but I didn't give up. I knew that once I taught that first class, I was addicted. Like, I could not, I couldn't not do this every single week. But every time I walked up to the classroom, you walk up to the front, you put your bag on the floor, and you look at yourself in the mirror. And I don't care who you are, but that's what you do. Every instructor does that. They put their bag on the floor, and they look at themselves in the mirror. And I looked at myself in the mirror every single week and said, you don't deserve to be up here.
Really?
You don't look like you deserve to be up here. And I remember thinking in my head, like, you have to be better. Like, you have to change. You have to work on yourself. Like, you have to be who these people think you are. And I started to put these really, really hard standards on myself about what an instructor should be and what an instructor should look like, and immediately went on a diet and tried to like envision or try to be this version of myself that I wasn't. And nobody was asking me to do that, and people started coming. My first class had 5 people in it. My second class had 10. My third class had 30.
Okay.
And it was just climbing like that. And, the thing was, is that it had nothing to do with whether I was a great instructor or not. I think you just kind of get hazed for those first couple weeks. Like, people just don't come because they don't know what to expect. And once people say, "Oh no, it was fine," people started to come. And before I knew it, I had a 70-person class. And it had nothing to do with my size. It had to do with how I made other people feel. I knew that I was insecure about what I looked like in front of that classroom. So I said things like, size doesn't matter. Work your hardest when you're here. You're here for a reason. What's your reason for fighting for your fitness? I started to implement motivational conversations into my coaching. Mm-hmm. And letting people know that it was okay to be wherever you were at in your journey. And people really loved and gravitated towards that. And what I don't think people realize is that I wasn't saying that for them. I was calming myself down.
Right.
I was telling myself, it's okay. You're okay. You can do this. You can be here at any size. As long as you love on people, they're going to come back for you. Those were cues for me.
Right.
And I started to attract that tribe of person that had failed 1,000 times and maybe still hadn't figured it out, but they were here today. Regardless, they showed up today. They might not be happy with themselves and they might not know what to eat for dinner tonight, but they're here right now. And those are my people. And I started realizing that I was teaching to myself, mm-hmm. and that was what brought me my success. Now, I would just want to be very, very clear, because if there are instructors watching this, I want you to know that, it's for them, right? It's not about us. It's right. About the people in your classroom. And so when I say that I was teaching for myself, I don't mean I was teaching to myself. Right. I was teaching to this crowd, but my reasoning for being there was to make me a better person. Correct. I treated group fitness and my job as an instructor as my first glimpses into personal development. And I really, really made sure that I was the best version of myself every single time I walked into that classroom. And regardless of what I was dealing with or struggling with that day, I knew that I had a message to pass on. And I walked into that room and put on that hat and just did my job. And that was really what pulled me out of, that negative self-talk. That's really what got me to start believing in myself, because eventually, if you tell yourself these positive things, you're gonna start believing them eventually, if you just continue to have those positive conversations with you. And so fast forward, I built those relationships. I had a great culture. I had an amazing class that I truly loved and enjoyed coming to every week. And it got fuller and fuller and fuller. And people started coming to my class at 24 and paying the $15 fee to scout me to work other places. They would come in and they would take my class. And at the end of the day, they would be like, "We want you to work here instead. We want you to work here instead." And I was like, okay, something's happening, and at that point I had lost more weight. So nothing, crazy, probably 15 to 20 pounds, but
so I was yourself overweight at that time, or were you?
Considered myself, yeah, I did consider myself overweight at the time. I did consider myself I had body image issues, you know what I mean? So at the time, I probably was the same size as everyone around me, but I considered myself unfit because I wasn't super, super skinny. Because in my head, a version of healthy was like a stick figure.
Right.
And I'm a very curvy girl. I have a Latin background, and I have a cool, mix of races inside of me, and I am a very curvy girl. My body just isn't like that, and I was never able to accept that that's just my body size and what I looked like. And so I felt as though if my legs were still too big, I wasn't fit yet. So I did consider myself to be overweight, and I, through teaching classes, when you first become an instructor, you initially just lose weight right away because you pick up as many classes as you can, and you're just working at a higher level than you ever did before. And it really doesn't matter what you eat. Like, you're just going to lose the weight. And that messes with your head a little bit too, because like a year into it, you're like, wait, why am I not losing weight still? But it's the initial shock of your body just saying, what the heck are you doing? So I had lost weight, and so I started to get these job offers, and it started to mess with my head. Like, okay, they only want me because now I'm skinny. And I started to think it had nothing to do with my ability as an instructor. I started to put that on, oh, it's because I lost weight. Like, they want me now, things like that. And it really probably didn't even matter to them what size I was. It was because my skills as an instructor were getting better. And, people were talking about me around town. So I did take certain, opportunities, and I was able to grow with different companies, which were amazing. And once my career started to take off and I was pretty much a full-time fitness instructor, I decided to audition to be a Beachbody Live master trainer, which is the person, full circle moment. It's the person who certifies people to become instructors.
Right.
The person I was hiding from in my instructor training. And I decided that I wanted to be a master trainer for two reasons. For one reason, because I just loved Turbo Kick so much, and I wanted it to continue to grow in my area.
Mm-hmm.
The second reason was because I felt that the person who I was in that room was not represented. I felt like the person that just wants to be there just to learn a little bit more knowledge about their class and just be better and hold themselves higher accountable was never represented in the training day. It was always about making this your job, making this your career, and being successful as an instructor. But I realized that there was an entire market of people that maybe never ever wanted to teach, but just wanted to be better as a student and loved the brand. And so those are what really fueled my fire in becoming a master trainer. I knew that those people needed to be represented. And there were other master trainers working in my area, but I felt that I had a different perspective that I could offer people. So I auditioned and I got it. I prepped really, really hard for those auditions. I had some amazing mentors, which happened to be the other master trainers in our area, and they really prepared me to rock it, and I crushed it. Like, I felt really confident, and I got some great reviews, and I got the job. And when I got the job, I kind of went back into my old ways of like, okay, I did it. No more need for improvement. Because it was so hard to prepare for that. And I totally, skipped over that story, but preparing for those auditions and preparing for that role was so hard that when I finally accomplished it, I was like, okay, I'm done. They like me for who I am right now, and I don't have to get any better than this. And I started to fall into this hole of like, this is just where I'm at. I finally made it. I'm at the top. And I was like 26. There's no way that I was done growing, but I was like, okay, I did it. What's next? Or I don't have to work on this anymore. What else should I be working on? And I decided to focus on my master trainer business and to focus on my Beachbody coaching business and to focus on all the things that I was doing. And I stopped focusing on my fitness journey. And I realized that a year into that, I was still teaching 10 classes a week or something ridiculous like that, but I wasn't doing anything for myself. Like, I was personal development. I wasn't growing my brain. I had already graduated college, and I think that might have had something to do with the fact that I just stopped learning. Like, I was done. Like, I graduated and I was like, I'm not reading a book anymore, and I kind of just hit this place of complacency when I really should have been working my butt off then. Like, That's when it should have started. And
Right.
instead I was like, okay, I hit the finish line, and so I was helping other people on their journeys. I was helping other people become instructors. I was very good at that, but I wasn't helping myself at all. And, fast forward a couple years further into that, and I had now become the heaviest I'd ever been. I weighed the most weight that I had ever weighed. And I was, in the 180s, probably close to the 190s. And I was teaching 10 classes a week. And I was a successful instructor. And I was at the top of my industry teaching other people how to do what I do.
And that's
Huh?
I said, and that's your heaviness.
Yeah. How the hell did that happen? Like, what happened? I looked back and I'm like, how did I get here? And it just gradually happened. It slowly happened, over the course of a year or two. And I'm like, what did I do wrong? And, when I look back on it now, it's very easy for me to say, you stopped caring about yourself. You put other people's goals before your own. Mm-hmm. You reached a goal that was very important to you, and you never set another one. I didn't have anything to work towards. I didn't care. I started to just let myself be complacent. And I confused self-love with giving up. I use the crutch of self-love as I don't have to change. I can be who I am today, and I don't have to get any better. And looking back on it now, self-love is not about accepting where you are. It's about accepting where you are and then changing.
Right.
And improving and doing a little bit better every day to be a better version of yourself. Loving yourself is not saying, okay, this is me. Loving yourself is saying, how do I become the best version of me? And I confused those two things. I started to think that if I just accepted who I was and accepted where I was, then I would be happy. But the truth is that just accepting where you are is accepting defeat. It's
right.
saying you can't get any better than this. This is it for you. And it wasn't until I had some major aha moments that got me to think about that. My coaching business and my Beachbody business were doing well because I was attracting the market of people like me. Mm-hmm. People who weren't super fit that were still successful and being able to really let their personality drive their business versus their looks. So I was still able to reach my target market at my site. And even though I wasn't being the best version of myself, I had grown so much that I was able to share my story, be relatable, and help them get to where they needed to be. I wasn't able to get them to here, but I was able to get them here. They were still growing with me. I hadn't unlocked the secrets to bring them massive success, but I was still able to help them climb, if that makes any sense.
It does.
So my business was doing really, really well. And I earned the Beachbody cruise. We got, for doing so well in my business, I was able to earn a free vacation for me and my boyfriend to go on the cruise to Beachbody we went to Jamaica or something really fun. And I was really, really proud of that. And I was very excited to go and earn my first trip and celebrate this. And I was very excited because I was going to be around master trainers. So other people that I love and, support me that live all over the country, we were going to have an opportunity to get together. Now, we do get together all the time through, our job, but this was the only time that it was all fun. I didn't have any work to do. So I was really, really excited to do that. And I packed my bikini and, we tried on a bunch of different clothes. And then
let me stop you there. You said you packed your bikini. So even though you weren't feeling healthy, you still was getting to the bikini and was it become comfortable?
Yeah, absolutely. I did not realize how big I had gotten.
Oh, okay.
I really didn't. In my head, because I was teaching 10 classes, I had to be okay. It wasn't until these aha moments happened that I realized how screwed up my reflection in the mirror was. I never truly saw myself for what I actually looked like. It took me until this year to be able to do that, to be able to look at myself in the mirror and actually self-assess what I was looking at. I didn't have the skills to do that.
Now, we had a conversation earlier, so can you kind of take us back to where that actually stemmed from?
Yeah, definitely. So I know that um, it all came from my growing up and the way that I was raised in my house and the way that food and bodies were talked about and treated in my home, and my parents are amazing people, but they didn't know how to talk in a body positive way. And so everyone in my house was fat. And I, he and I discussed this earlier, but I can't even remember really clearly if I was actually overweight or if I was just told I was. Like, I really don't know if I was when I was younger. And I think that by being told that I was overweight, or, my brothers and my father always called me fatty, fatty, always. It was a term of endearment in our home. And, from the minute I can remember talking to them to, even now it kind of comes out sometimes, they slip and say it, but that was my nickname.
Mm.
And I don't even know if I was fat or not. And when I was super young, I had no idea what that even meant. It wasn't until I got older and I remember my brother calling me that in front of my friends that I was like, oh, that's something to be embarrassed about. Like, I remember having that moment where I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that was like a really mean thing, you know?
Because of the look that she gave, or was it something that you?
Yeah, because of my friends being like, oh my God, I can't believe he called you that. And I was like, oh, is that weird? So I've been called that my whole life. But, so my vision of myself, my reflection in the mirror I was never able to actually see what I looked like. I immediately would critique or look down on myself or talk negatively in my head about what I looked like. I went straight to my flaws and never looked at anything positive. And I attributed health and fitness and body size to the work I was putting in, not the actual image in the mirror. If I didn't work out, I was worthless. If I worked out today, I did something good. It didn't matter what I ate. I started to put it to what I was doing physically.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I was like, if I worked out today, then I'm skinny today. And if I didn't work out today, then I'm fat. It was kind of like that. And so I was teaching all these classes and I was teaching instructors how to be successful. And I was trying to be proud of myself and self-love and all that good stuff. And the things I knew I needed, I just didn't know how to do them. So I had this image in my head that I was okay. I started to just think, I'm okay the way I am. People are going to accept me for the way I am. So yeah, I packed a bikini. And, I remember we had a beach party. And I remember going to the beach party and looking around at my colleagues and being like, oh my God, I don't belong with these people. It was a very big aha moment to me to look around and say, I have a lot of work to do on myself. I have a lot of weight to lose. And I was embarrassed that being in the fitness industry, that I hadn't self-reflected or realized that sooner.
Well, let me ask you this though: was this all your internal self-talk, or
Yes.
did the people actually make you feel that way? Because I think that's
No one
important.
made me feel this way. Yeah, nobody made me feel this way. This was my own brain just taking it out on myself and being hard on myself and being down on myself. And I just started to get to be really, really hard on myself about it. And there was no reason for that. At the end of the day, my success was still there. Nobody could take that from me. I was a fitness professional. It didn't matter what size I was, and I couldn't learn that lesson. It took me a really long time to learn that lesson. I just remember feeling that way and reverting back to those moments of being told that I wasn't good enough or wasn't fit enough or I could never be successful in this job or, all of those things. And I started to realize that it was me talking to me. Nobody was ever said that to me. You know what I mean? Like, I was the only one that ever put any standards or any, limitations on myself and my abilities. And through this entire experience, Beachbody, the company that I worked for, never once said, you're not fit enough or you're not good enough. They were proud of me for the accomplishments that I was making and for the people that I was helping. And they felt as though I was representing a group of people that needed representation. And I also forgot why I started doing this in the first place. Like
Mhm.
I wanted to be a master trainer because I knew that these people were not being represented.
Right, right.
So I started to forget all those things, and I just started to get really hard on myself. That day, or not that day, but I was coming home from that trip, flying back to California, and I got a call from Beachbody headquarters asking me to audition for the quarter force modifier role,
Okay.
all in that trip. And so it was such a,
Well, for those people that don't know what quarter force is and a modifier is, can you kind of explain that?
oh, sure. So quarter force is a Beachbody home workout that you can do from the comfort of your own home. You get like a video DVD set and you do these workouts. And quarter force specifically is an MMA inspired kickboxing and Muay Thai like fighting workout. It's so much fun. And a modifier is the person in the workout DVD that kind of takes some of the impact out of the workout and just does maybe a lower option, or sometimes just a safer option, or they show you how to progress to those harder moves and how to do the workout if you were starting out, how to do it that way. So I was asked to audition for that role, and if you were to ask me on a scale from 1 to 10, if I thought that was a big deal, it was a 20 on my professional scale of things that I really wanted to accomplish. Being, a pretty big role in a Beachbody workout was something that was on my 10-year plan. It was absolutely a goal of mine, but I had no idea that it was anywhere near achieving that goal. And so I was definitely thrilled to be asked to do that. But I felt like there was no way they actually wanted me to do it. I was like, there's no way that they want me. They made a mistake. They called the wrong Jessica. Like, that's how I felt. And because in that same trip, I had just had that moment of looking around at my colleagues and saying, I'm the one that doesn't fit in here. And so then 2 days later, I get this phone call for the biggest opportunity in my career. Sorry, my phone's ringing. But I had the opportunity for the biggest thing that could ever happen to me, something that I really, really wanted to do. And I felt so unworthy and incapable of doing this job. And again, that was all me and all of the things that I thought made a successful fitness professional, and me thinking that I didn't fit into those society norms and the industry norms and what people expected of a fit person. I didn't think that I fit into those roles. But of course, just like I did when I was an instructor, I did it anyways, because I knew that if I didn't do it, I would be so disappointed in myself, and I couldn't live with myself that way. So I worked really hard and auditioned for that role and got it, and worked really hard during that role to crush it and to represent women like me. And I had a lot of pride in that's what really fueled me, was to just say that people like me needed representation, and I'm going to crush it for those women and for myself. But I'm not going to lie, that every second I felt like the rug was going to be ripped from underneath. While we were rehearsing, I thought someone else is going to come in and take my job any second now. I'm not the one that they really want. They're going to see that I'm not really good at this, or they're going to think that maybe they found another girl that's better. Things like that. And I also thought, oh, I need to lose some weight while I'm here. They want me to be a little bit skinnier. Now, did anybody tell me that? No. Did they pick me for my size? Yes. So I was like not eating and trying to not eating, but I was dieting when we were working out like 8 hours a day. And I remember the producer or the director sat me down and said, hey, Jessica, I understand these are super physical days. She's like, you're losing weight. And I was like, I know, right? Like, all proud. And she's like, we don't want you to lose weight. Like, we chose you for your size. And I was like, that was my second aha moment. Like, come on. Like, you were picked for a reason. They want you. They could have picked anybody. Like, anybody would have jumped at this opportunity. They chose you for where you were in your life right now. They chose me because I could still work out to the fullest of my ability. I was just a certain size, and that size had nothing to do with how hard I had worked and all the hours I had put in to having really good form and being able to execute exercises properly. Like, it had nothing to do with it. And that was my second, slap in the face. The first one really made me self-aware and realized that I really had not worked on myself in a really long time. Standing around those other master trainers, even though it was a negative self-talk that went in, it's one of the moments that I truly appreciate because it made me realize that I have to work on myself every day. I cannot just be complacent. The second one was, I'm where I am in my career because I worked my ass off to be here. And no one can take that from me. And they want me for me and not for something else that I'm trying to be. So from that moment on, I relaxed and I enjoyed the experience on set, rehearsing, and just being the best version of myself. And I was able to proudly represent full-figured, curvy girls that can still kick butt and do all that good stuff.
Now let me ask you, at any time in your fitness journey, at any time, did you come across people that actually sneered at you or snickered because you were, quote unquote, not the ideal, whatever the ideal is?
Absolutely. All the time.
Really?
All the time. Yeah, all the time. And I think that's, it's funny because when you don't truly love yourself, right, that stuff gets to you. But you also are so used to it because, no one that grows up in a body positive environment has issues with self-esteem and things like that, right? We have these issues because of the way that we were raised and the people we were around and the way that our, initial relationships spoke to us about what we looked like and kind of put those labels on us for us, right? So, it's kind of like a weird thing because when you grow up that way and when you have those thoughts about yourself, you internalize everything you hear, but you're also used to it. So like I constantly felt judged and I would get comments all the time where people are like, you're the instructor? Like, you're the one that's going to teach? And I'm like, yeah, and I'd walk up to the front of the room and it only took 10 seconds of them being there to realize, hell yeah, I'm the instructor. But like, walking in the door, like I remember people coming up to me and saying, hey, do you know who the teacher is? And I'm like, it's me. And they're like, oh, like, they would give me that look, or people would come to my certifications and say, you're the master trainer, like, and just give me that kind of look, or I would feel like they didn't want to learn from me, or they were disappointed in what they saw. But at the same time, it didn't affect me as negatively as you would think it would because I was used to people treating me that way. And I was able to just kind of roll with it. I kind of expected everyone to think that way about me.
And you know why I bring that up is because you did a great job of talking about how you were doing such negative talk to yourself, and then you were talking about self-love, right? If you don't love yourself, if you're not treating yourself positively, how do you expect other people to treat you positively, right?
Exactly.
So you're used to it, but also more so, you were doing it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. It's just the way it was. And if somebody were to say to me, which very rarely happened, but if somebody were to actually say to me, like, how can you be an instructor and still be overweight? I would have responded, I know. It's so, like, I agree with you. I got to work on it. You know what I mean? Like, I would have agreed with that conversation versus me saying, now through being through all this journey and figuring out how to love myself, I would say, because we are all different. You know what I mean? Like, I know that answer now, but back then, like, I wouldn't have been able to articulate that because I believed what they believed. What they saw in me, I saw myself. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I was not satisfied with the reflection, and it really took me truly accepting my journey and accepting where I am as a starting point, loving myself where I am and knowing I needed to change, not just loving myself and giving up, but saying, okay, here's where we are, and that's okay. And a lot of lessons have been learned, and I have accomplished so much here. And now we go up. Like, let's go. Let's do it. And I attribute a lot of this journey and all of the aha moments, really did come together when I was on set for Quarter Fourth and really filming it, because that was the hardest that I had ever worked. And I had really had a lot to prove to myself. And every time that I would get positive reinforcement or, praise or told I was doing a good job, I started to believe those things. And every time that I was proud of myself, I started to change the way that I spoke to myself. I started to change the way that I thought about myself. I was holding my head pretty high during that time. And what really was unfortunate about all of this was that it was a secret. Like when you create a video for Beachbody, you can't tell anybody you're doing it.
That's true.
Yeah, and so that was something that I didn't really realize was going to happen, because we work on these projects and they don't release until 6 months after we film, because they film it, they edit it, and they get it all together, and then they release it. So within that time, when I'm doing all this self-reflection, and when I got the job initially, and I was totally down on myself, thinking that I wasn't able to do it, and that any minute now someone was going to steal it from me, I couldn't talk to anybody about it. Nobody knew I was working on this project. And so I really had to self-reflect, and I had to be my own support system. I couldn't tell anyone what I was going through. I had to figure it out on my own. I had to learn how to talk myself down from the ledge and just figure it out. And that was probably the most valuable lesson that I've ever learned. Is at the end of the day, you have to be there for you. You have to be your biggest fan, and you have to figure out how to do it, or you're not going to succeed. And I knew that accomplishing this goal was what I wanted more than anything in the world. To be the best modifier that Beachbody had ever had was what I really wanted to do for me. And so I had to snap out of it and figure it out. And I was able to do that. I was able to learn how to accept my journey and where I was, and to be proud, and to realize that I had room for improvement, and to just not let myself down and continue to work and to get better. And I wasn't able to lose weight. I wasn't able to get fit or get strong until I changed the way that I treated myself and what I thought I was deserving of. And
Wow.
The second that I said I deserved better, I lost it all. I went from 180 to 150, like in 2 months' time, so quickly. And not only was I doing that, but I was sharing these messages, because now my social media had changed its tune. It was all about working on yourself and your journey and where you are right now, and taking one step forward every day, and all those things. And I was attracting now, not only the people I was attracting before, but I was inspiring them to change, and they were moving and growing with me. And then again, my business caught on fire, and my master trainer business caught on fire, and everything kind of started to happen again, because I changed my ways, and I had a new energy and a new light about me.
Wow.
I was able to do that. And then, because I was in a hotel room every night, self-reflecting, I was able to realize, why I have these issues, and what it is about my upbringing that, gave me all these problems, and what it was about society and the norms that I was putting on myself, or the expectations, and why I thought that fitness was such an opposite thing of what it is, and it's not about a body size, it's about a feeling, it's about how you feel and how you make other people feel. People who come to my class as students aren't there because they know they're going to get a six-pack if they come to 3 classes. They're there because I make them feel good about themselves. I make them feel like they're strong and capable. And, it's a feeling. And so when I started to realize that, I started to change my mentality, and I just became 10 times happier, but very aware that this is an issue in our society. And so I think it translates back to being brave, because even though I didn't believe in myself throughout any of the steps of these, through this journey, I did it anyways. Like I just said, I have to do it anyways. And I didn't feel prepared to become an instructor. I was, terrified to audition as a master trainer, terrified to step into my role as the modifier, but I did it anyways, because I knew that I couldn't live with myself if I hadn't tried. And, that's just the lasting impression of it all. Is it's just, it's hard to love yourself sometimes if you don't have the skills, if you have never been taught how to do it, if you don't have those examples of how to treat yourself well, it's hard to do it, and you have to learn it. But you have to listen to that tiny, tiny voice inside of you that's like, I really want this. And you have to be brave, and you have to just go. You have to just jump right in.
And you know, I love that you say that, and you know, because that's one of the things that I talk about often is you talked about self reflection. How did you learn to do that, or did you just kind of stumble upon that? Because that's the things that we don't like to do. That's the hard work that we keep talking about that you have to do. It's not necessarily the lifting the weights or learning routine. Really, the hard work is when you have to go internal to figure out what's going on inside of you.
Yeah, I think for me, it was a lot of spending time alone and actually really like spending the day alone and being by myself where I had to just think about where I am in my life and if I'm really this unhappy, why? Like what is wrong? What can I do to make it better? And a lot of times, you know, a lot of the reasons why I was so unhealthy during my fitness journey was because I was drinking and at the bars and I was afraid to be by myself. I constantly surrounded myself with people, whether they were good friends or bad friends, didn't matter. I constantly surrounded myself with people that were going to keep my mind busy. And the minute that I learned how to be alone and to really just think about what's going on in my life, I was able to self-reflect. And I think it was stumbled upon. You know, I don't think I had the skills to say, today I will self-reflect. You know, it wasn't like that. I think I hit those moments of like, just being so down on myself that I just kind of got sick of my own negative self-talk and I had to just change the tune, you know? But I remember specifically like driving to LA, checking into my hotel, going through the first days of rehearsals for Quarter Force, and then going back to my hotel room and being alone. Not a friend around me that could be around, you know, like no one was there and just really having to say like, okay, I did not feel confident today. Like, why is that? And just really thinking it through. And I think it's really important as adults for us to take that time to just be alone and to have to really think about what's going on in your lives. And I realized now that it's really important for me to have goals. Because when I have goals, I have direction. And it gives me a clear way to self-reflect. Because I can think about, what am I wanting to achieve? Why have I not achieved that yet? What am I doing to stand in my own way? And for people who do have negative self-talk or who have low self-esteem or who put themselves down, it's actually, you can spin it for the positive. Because instead of being super, super hard on yourself, you learn to hold yourself accountable. Like you learn to say that it's you're the reason why you're where you are because you're super hard on yourself all the time. And so instead of just letting it drown you and take you over and say like, you're not good enough, you can say, okay, yes, I am not as far in my career because I slacked off. You can hold yourself accountable and use it to fuel you that way. And so I was really, really good at telling myself why I was successful. And so then I just had to add the positive spin on it where it was like, how do I become successful or what can I do? But I was really, really good at telling myself why I had gotten where I was, how I had stood in my own way or what mistakes I had made to not be happy, things like that. And so
let me ask you real quick, because you mentioned about when you went back to your hotel room, you were alone. Now, had you had a friend there, would you really have been open and honest to discuss with that friend that you weren't feeling comfortable today?
Nope, there's no way. Had I had a friend there, I would have pretended like it was the best day ever, that I didn't have any of those feelings, and I would have put the mask on that I was used to putting on, where I would still have thought in my head that I wasn't good enough, but I would never have let someone else know that because I assumed they were already thinking that, and there was no need for me to have that conversation with them. And I wouldn't have also had that honest conversation with myself.
Right.
Like I would not have, had I had someone there to occupy my mind, I wouldn't have let my mind go to that place of self-reflection at all. So it was such a benefit and such a blessing to be alone and to really have to think about that. You know, and I think that a lot of people are like that. You know, you surround yourself with people to keep your mind busy so that you don't have to self-reflect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I mean, that was some great information. Now, if people
Of
want to get
course.
in contact with you, how can they do this, Jessica?
There's a couple of different ways to get in contact with me. Social media, of course, is where I live. You can follow me on Instagram. That is the @jessica.talby. You can follow me on Facebook on my like page. It's Jessica Talby Fitness.
Okay.
And then I also have a group of people. It's mostly women that want to talk about this exact topic: self-love, self-worth, and how to find it and why you don't have it. And that is a group called Fight to Fit. It's for brawlers only. And what I mean by brawlers only is you got to be ready to fight. You got to be ready to get down and dirty, and you're fighting for yourself. And in that group, we just have some real conversations about body image and just some really cool things. And so you're more than welcome to join that group. I will have to approve you in, but I will. And you can definitely find me there. And if any of this part of your story inspired you and made you feel like, hey, maybe I could do this too, I would love for you to fill out my Google form. And that website is cdslivewithjess.com. And you can fill out a form to learn more about instructor trainings in your area and get you started on your journey as well. And remember, just because you come to an instructor training doesn't mean you have to teach. It just means you're going to better yourself and learn a little bit more about a group fitness class that you probably already love.
And who knows, it might be that little voice within them as well telling them the same thing, that this is for me, as it was for you as well.
Right. Well, what the truth of the matter is you're going to teach.
Exactly. If you go to the training, that's the stuff is to teach you that.
You're gonna teach, but you don't have to put a ton of pressure on yourself. Just get there. You know what I mean? There's no pressure. Just show up. But you're gonna teach. Because you're gonna fall in love with it.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Jessica, for sharing this information. I mean, that was such a great, I love that you're very vulnerable and just really speaking from your heart and tell us about your journey of fitness. And I so appreciate you doing this, not just for me and for you, but for those out there that's also going through the same thing. Because again, as you were mentioning before, we don't share this information with other people because we're doing such a negative talk within ourselves that we talk ourselves out of and we convince that other people are doing it. And Tiffany is saying this is very inspiring, and thank you for sharing your journey. So really appreciate you doing this, Jessica.
Thank you so much.
And again, I appreciate you guys joining us again for this Empowering Women series, and join me again next week when we have someone else on. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Bye.
Bye.